What is Quantiphi and what does it do?
We are an AI-first digital engineering firm focused on solving problems with the help of data and AI.
AI agents plan, self-reflect, and interact across teams. How will this impact traditional team structures? How can organizations balance innovation with control?
Any organization who is willing to adopt generative AI at scale needs to do is put a responsible AI framework around it. What DeepSeek has kind of done, they've kind of shaken that whole reality or myth you don't know at this moment.
Will AI and human silos emerge, or is it time for a more integrated future that is possible?
I foresee
AI now is handling complex tasks. How can businesses design workflows to harness this in the best way possible? Are there cases where, say, AI outperformed human decision making? Bhaskar, a very, very warm welcome, a very good morning. Lovely to have you here. It's a bright early morning day here at AIM Media House, latest episode of Simulated Reality. And we have Bhaskar Kalita, who is very fondly known as BK. So BK, welcome to AIM. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here. We have been engaged with AIM for a while now, and just timing worked out. Excited to be in your studios.
Lovely to have you here. You know, there is loads that I want to talk to you about because Quantiphi is doing some really innovating work, some really path-breaking work.
Yeah.
So we will definitely get to that. But there is one topical thing that I want to ask you about first.
Yeah.
What a whirlwind 10 days the world of AI has had.
Yes.
What a whirlwind 10 days DeepSeek has
Yes.
had.
Yes.
I mean, global recognition, global acceptance,
Yes.
power,
Yes.
and then immediately major controversies,
Yes.
allegations of bias, allegations of data inaccuracies,
Yes.
already getting banned in Italy. So what is your take on that? What is your take on DeepSeek?
I mean, first and foremost, it's exciting to see a new kid in the block. That's number one. You have a player that is showing the world that things that were thought about. I mean, if you look at all the big players in the market, from the OpenAIs of the world, the Googles, the Microsoft Azures of the world, there is a certain pattern that was getting set in stone. You were looking at the type of investments needed to create foundational models. But what DeepSeek has kind of done, they've kind of shaken that whole reality or myth you don't know at this moment. But it has given a lot of food for thought. Even if you look at what Meta is doing, I was reading an article while flying in that Zuckerberg has called in like 4 teams. He has called it Code Red. Let's find out what DeepSeek is doing. So there is
Code Red, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they are worried because what DeepSeek has also done is they have open sourced it, right? So great. I mean, I think it's great that we have a new kid in the block, and excited to see the space. Obviously, there's a lot of up and down. You look at the stock markets; it's going berserk. But I think this is good for this technology, right? And I'm hoping at some point of time there will be a foundational model coming out of India as well, right?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Ever
yeah.
since DeepSeek shook up the market,
Yeah.
that is the first question that everybody's been asking.
Yeah.
When is India going to build its own DeepSeek, its own foundational
Yes,
models?
yes.
And let's hope soon.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's hope soon. The work is going on in
Yeah.
that. Talking about work, as we mentioned, Quantify does some really, really innovating work, be it with clients across the world. So, but there's a major section of the society that also might not know.
Mm-hmm.
The upcoming tech enthusiasts who
Yeah.
might not know exactly about the work that goes behind the scenes. So if I want to ask you to explain in simple words, what is Quantify and what does it do?
Sure. So we are an AI-first digital engineering firm focused on solving problems with the help of data and AI, right? We were one of its first to come out of the block to solve problems using AI. I mean, in 2013, that's the year we were incepted. And that was the time frame when 3 major things happened. Number one, the cost of storage had gone down by then. The cost of compute was coming down with cloud coming in. And then another major event happened around the same time frame was with Google open sourcing TensorFlow. So it became very easy for young developers to come in and do stuff on their own. You didn't need proprietary tech, spend a lot of dollars. You can bootstrap a lot of firms and start solving problems. And that's what the co-founders of Quantiphi did. They started going out for looking at friends and family, customers, understanding their problems that matters and see if there's an AI solution to it. And from that point onwards, now 11 years after, we are in year 12 now, we have solved a lot of cutting edge problems across the globe in various sectors, and we have around 3,700, close to 4,000, exciting professionals in our organization solving problems using data and AI. That's what we do.
Absolutely. You've been with Quantify for the last 6 years.
Yes.
How did the partnership kickstart?
Yeah, so good story. I mean, two of the co-founders of Quantify were past colleagues. One of them was my ex-boss. The other was his peer. So they knew me, and we had some initial interactions, and those interactions led to some concrete conversations. And then the spring of 2019, I came on board. My mandate was to kind of think about verticalizing offerings, and it started with insurance, and then now I lead financial services and insurance for Quantify.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If in short, you can tell us a little, because I was reading through about your journey. And it's
Yeah.
been a really fascinating journey. You grew up in Guwahati, then engineering in Kurukshetra,
Yeah.
and then since the last 20 odd years in the US.
Yeah.
So if in short, you can tell us a little about, what led to this young student that got bitten by this massive interest in technological world, and how did that lead to your career getting kick-started, and then maybe a little gist of how the career has up until now been like the last 20 years in US.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, see, obviously the journey has taken me to various places, starting with Hyderabad, where I started my journey, spent a lot of time there. Obviously, Chicago is my next home, so to speak. I've lived there for so many years now. Always been a tech enthusiast. Started with data. I used to be a database administrator to begin with, and then moved into data architecture, delivery, then going into portfolio management, etc. So all along have been in technology. So when this role kind of came up, where it was a unique intersection of technology background in a space that's evolving, and where there is an industry overlap as well, I felt it's the right spot for me, and kind of took it up. I enjoy knowing latest tech. Uh, Always a follower of adopting newer stuff as fast as possible. Obviously, I take the approach of test first, fail, learn. I used to try. I generally take that approach, and it has always helped me in my career. So that's who I am, and that's what I tell my teams to always consider as they start mapping their career. Four things define a professional career, in my opinion. One is the type of work that you do, the role that comes along with it, and then you obviously have your title, compensation, etc. I always prefer to prioritize the first two. I believe if you do the first two right, you'll get the second two anyway.
Absolutely, I agree with
And
that.
that's what I've been following all my 22 years of professional career so far.
BK, agentic AI is compared to, say, cloud computing's early days, transforming business strategies. How will it now reshape organizations? And what lessons can prevent the past mistakes?
Oh, this is, I think, probably one of the groundbreaking next steps when it comes to generative AI. Ever since November 29th of 2022, when ChatGPT went live, it created a buzz. A lot of experimentation followed, and we saw a lot of design patterns, starting with RAG, now agentic workflow. But fundamentally, what businesses are trying to see is that, does these technologies alter our business processes, our operating model, and how we engage with our end customers in a completely different way? That's what all businesses are trying to figure out. And one of the things, that underlying thing that has to work out, is the return on investments. Does it make sense from a business standpoint? I think agentic AI or agentic workflows provides that avenue, right? See, if you look at generative AI, and this is a very, very simple way to think about it. If you are an employee who has recently started doing a particular task or a job, you will not be good at it. If you have done it for 10 years, you will know everything by heart. You know what to do. The patterns of generative AI applications or AI applications that were built so far, prior to agentic workflows coming into picture, was providing an ROI for that young professional who probably needs help in doing the job in a faster, better way. But for those experienced professionals, it didn't make any sense. I already know it, right? I mean, if you do a RAG implementation where you have an assistant, you go in and try to type in questions and seek answers. An experienced person already knows those answers. So there was varying degrees of ROI depending on the persona that you were trying to target. In fact, I had a very interesting use case with a financial services firm where we went through an implementation for months, went through UAT. It was a RAG implementation, and we did UAT across 100 users, multiple varying degrees of questions. Most of the answers were right that the system was providing. But did it add value to the end users? All the new users, new hires loved it. But all those old experienced folks felt like, oh, it doesn't change my life so far. So it didn't saw the end of the road and didn't go to production. Agentic AI will change that paradigm. You will now be able to really calculate the return on investment and the time savings, cost savings that you can get by automating an end-to-end process. That's what agentic AI brings to bear. So I do believe that it's going to fundamentally change the way businesses are run, business processes are designed. There are varying degrees of autonomy. We can talk about it in detail.
So, Biki, AI now is handling complex tasks. How should firms prioritize automation for, say, cost, customer experience, innovation, and what KPIs capture its true value beyond cost savings?
I will answer this question in two steps. Number one, levels of autonomy. And this kind of dovetails into the previous topic that we are talking about. There are four distinct levels of autonomy as you start talking about. Number one is a particular task that you will do. You don't need an AI application to build autonomous platforms. There were different kinds of technologies already there that used to do. You went through robotic process automation at one point of time, which is basically defined tasks. You can build automation by writing a Python code as well, giving rules, and you can do certain tasks, right? So that already existed. Then came RAGs, or retrieval systems, where you are using foundational models and you are trying to align those models to a specific set of information, vectorize the information and retrieve questions, and you are able to answer. So that level of autonomy came in. Then comes agentic workflow, where you are now able to even reason and think about your answers. You are building an agent that is actually thinking about that answer. It's able to break a particular task into multiple levels, right? A complex sequence of tasks, you break it down, you reason as you give an answer, and you improve. That's an agent. That's the level 3, which is agentic workflows. And then comes multi-agent systems, which is fundamentally your multiple agents talking to each other and building system. You have a super agent handling a lot of agents. So that's one. That's how you will operate. And then finally, what are the different ROIs that can come from different levels? Obviously, the basic one is return on investment. Am I able to save time, cost, money? Am I able to enable our employees to do or spend time in more nuanced work rather than doing certain mundane work? I think that's where the saving comes. And then finally, it's the experience that you provide to your end customers. I mean, if you can provide a consistent, accurate engagement layer for your end customer, that's the ultimate holy grail you are going after. A consistent engagement layer that provides the right experience for end customers. So,
Right. You mentioned the mundane tasks being taken care of. How important is it for, say, organizations to find that balance?
Yeah.
Where it's not just mundane tasks and where actual creativity is needed, where actual beautiful code, where you need the human touch. How important is for organizations to find that balance where that human touch is also there, but then agentic AI also comes into the picture, but where this doesn't overpower that?
Absolutely important. Absolutely important. And in fact, most of the agentic workflows that are getting implemented right now has a human element to it, where you will end the end of the day have a human looking at it and approving a particular task or reviewing a particular code or finally pressing a button that enables you to take the process ahead. It will always be there. I mean, especially when you work in regulated environments like financial services, you can't be building complete autonomous engines and rolling it out because you will have regulations out there, right? So at the end of the day, you need humans to kind of get engaged. And this engagement is necessary for these autonomous applications to learn as well, to learn and get and improve, right? So I believe a bionic system, so if I can use that term, is absolutely necessary to provide the right experience to the end customers.
Let's talk about AI agents and some of the work that they do. So BK, AI agents now, they can plan, self-reflect, interact across teams. How will this impact traditional team structures? Will AI and human silos emerge, or is it time for a more integrated future that is possible?
I foresee a more integrated, team construct in a way that when you are developing such systems, you will have a pod, if I can use the term, a pod construct being arranged differently. Right now, think about if we are doing a machine learning engagement or a machine learning use case, you will have machine learning engineers, you will have data engineers, you will have platform, and you have a specific construct based on which you kind of create a particular team, and that unit delivers you a piece of code. Now, when you are building agentic AI applications, you will probably not need as many machine learning engineers as you need. You'll probably need one or two who can help you kind of do or stitch the story together. You will need platform engineers, but more importantly, you will need engineers who can engage with foundational models, who can write proper prompts, can kind of engage with them. Now, if you're using, say, a DeepSeek R1 or a Llama 3, you might have to change weights, you might have to fine tune the model, etc., because those are kind of, you get the access to the code and you will kind of deploy it. So you will need machine learning engineers there, but the construct will fundamentally change, and we are seeing it in our applications. Like, for example, in Quantiphi, I mean, one of the products that we go to market with, Docify, uh, the team construct is changing rapidly. I mean, in fact, we believe that we'll need more functional folks with the right amount of skill to engage with these foundational models, have the ability to kind of open a notebook, engage the foundational model, write a proper prompt, and then get the output, instead of machine learning engineers who needs to write code from scratch. So we're seeing a paradigm shift there.
So, LLM powered AI offers opportunities but also risks at the same time: bias, ethics, errors, all of this that DeepSeek has been accused of as well. So, how can organizations balance innovation with control? And what governance frameworks are very essential?
Yeah, absolutely. So, uh, one of the first things any organization who is willing to adopt generative AI at scale needs to do is put a responsible AI framework around it and a governance process. We have seen our customers doing it. We are helping customers set it up, and we are doing it internally as well. So let me first start by talking about what we are doing.
Totally.
So we, along with our data protection officer and information risk officer, we have a CISO in house. We have built a framework where we review each and every AI engagement that we are doing, and review responsible AI principles. We have 8 principles defined, and we score and rank each engagement and identify if there is a risk associated with it or not.
You said 8 principles.
We have got 8 principles.
Can you tell us about one or two of them?
A few of them I can talk. I mean, obviously, bias is one key element. Then, and then there are elements around how are we engaging with the end customer? Is this model going to validate, authenticate, or provide an output that can impact a particular section of the society, etc. So that's bias. Then there are other ethical principles out there. There are other governance principles out there from a deployment standpoint. And we can have a detailed session around our responsible AI principles. But fundamentally, these principles help us kind of guide how we kind of review an engagement. And based on that, we also talk to our customers in terms of what they should be doing. We are also so these principles help us kind of organize accordingly. along with being a professional services firm, we also provide platform services. Docify, Bionic, these are our two go-to-market platforms that we go. So we need to make sure these platforms have these principles already embedded in the ecosystem. So there are audits getting done, there are reviews getting done. There is also a certification that has come out. I think it's called 40001 certification that's out there that will help us kind of certify some of our AI practices. So that's what we do. From a consulting standpoint, we help organizations set up AI governance councils. How should their intake process looks like? Now, right now, as you see, given the fact that AI has become mainstream, I mean, every corner of an enterprise will be associated with an AI engagement. You know that. Now, how do you put a system in place that you have a governance, you have proper governance? A lot of customers are going with a hub and spoke model, where you have a hub that's like a COE, which takes care of innovation and prototyping, governance, etc., and the spokes where the development happens. So when the spokes come with a new engagement or a new proposition, it has to come to the hub and go through the governance process. So we help our clients set up those governance principles. So absolutely critical.
So, multi agent collaboration boosts AI performance. How can businesses design workflows to harness this in the best way possible? Are there cases where, say, AI outperformed human decision making?
Yeah, good question. So there are different scenarios where multi-agent systems are taking shape. Most of them are in pilot prototyping phase. I mean, I'll be surprised if there are certain systems that are already out there in production, unless there is a digital native or somebody who has been doing this for a while, kind of has put it out there. But for traditional enterprises, it's still in prototyping phase. I'll give you some of the examples where we are piloting right now multi-agent systems. One, a, a AI agent verifying another agent, or output of another agent, where you have an agent creating an output, and then how do you make sure the output is correct? What happens in today's world, an AI output is verified or validated by a human in the loop process. The human comes and validates it. That's where the human reviewer comes in. Now, can you also put an agent in between that does the first level of verification?
Or just the first?
First level of verification, then it comes to a human. So
yeah, because I'm so sorry. I was thinking that if the first AI agent can have an error, can have a biased opinion, can make an error, then even the second layer of checking, there can be an error from that agentic AI as well. But as you mentioned, there is the final level of checking is being done by a senior human level employee.
yeah, you will need to have that check in place for a time being. As you know, most of this agentic workflows, or if I may use the term L3 level applications, they have self-reflection modules, right? They will learn as they do it. So you need the human intervention to be in place so that you can have that self-reflection model kick in. So over a period of time, it will get better, it'll improve. So you might get into a situation where you don't need a human interventions after time. That's where you can build a complete straight through processing system, right? Without any errors in place, right? To your other question, have we seen AI applications outperform human judgments? I would say yes. I mean, I would say, just think about the benchmarking that is done for all LLMs. Most of the benchmarkings are based on certain exams. Have they cleared the bar? Have they cleared these exams, etc.? There are certain scores they are scoring, which means that if an LLM is scoring 95 percentile, so it is better than a lot of humans who have taken that exam, right? So the results that are coming out of these large language models on generally available information is definitely outperforming a lot of human outputs. Now let's talk about contextualized information, where that's when the rubber hits the road for a lot of enterprises. You'll have to go through the journey of kind of providing those proprietary information to those large language models, go through a period of self-reflection. And the way these are getting designed, I am absolutely certain that AI or AI applications will outperform human output by a factor of maybe 2 or 3 easily. Yeah.
Correct. I want to ask you, you've been an industry leader for so many years now. You've been with Quantify for 6. When Quantify started 13 years back, you were in a different project in the States. When the boom was happening, much before it became mainstream,
Yeah.
when the AI boom was happening, much before the Gen AI boom, did you come across questions from junior level employees or people working under you or people working with you that are we going to lose our jobs? And if you had questions like that, what did you answer to them?
Yeah, see, I mean, there are parts of jobs that are getting changed or altered, right? I mean, there is a very interesting video piece that I saw many years ago, which talked about autonomous trucks and the point about having an AI tax being employed, and folks getting social service credits because of jobs going away. There are a lot of talks that are going around the world, but I fundamentally believe that this is another tech revolution that will enable humans to do some other levels of work. Just think about the whole journey of technology, from a pen and paper firms where you need people to do a lot of businesses. You have information technology systems coming along. You had earlier mainframes, COBOL. You had mainframe applications. Then you moved to OLTP applications. You have gone through that journey where essentially you are bringing degrees of automation, degrees of speed, and AI provides another level of automation, so to speak. And jobs have evolved. There is also a very interesting statistics that 65% of the jobs of future haven't been seen yet.
Wow. How future are we talking about?
You are talking about maybe 10 years, 15 years.
Just 1 decade.
One decade.
1 decade or a decade and a half.
Yeah, it'll completely change. So folks who are in schools, folks who are in high school, middle school right now, may end up doing a very different type of jobs
Than what they're studying for right now.
starting. And the next piece that I'll talk about is my hypothesis. It's not something that you know you know quantify or in general we are talking about this stuff, but just think about it, right? The technology boom in India, and I'll focus on India because obviously you have a large audience in India. The technology boom that happened in India from the 90s was primarily driven by outsourcing,
Right.
jobs being shipped to India, and you had a whole degree of colleges, engineering colleges coming up. You had students only picking computer science as the choice, right? Or electronics or some of the topics that helps them to do software applications. I remember going into my counseling in 1999. I wanted to take Surathkal Mechanical, RSC Surathkal Mechanical. I wanted to go there. I was just walking in. My dad stopped me, saying that, "Hey, computers or electronics, don't take anything else," right? So he kind of nudged me. So I went in, picked Kurukshetra Electronics. Not that I regret it, but that was the mindset back in the day.
Right.
And post that, you have this whole wave of engineering colleges coming up to the point that seats will go vacant.
Correct.
Right? You have like scores of seats coming in. I think we will see a very different momentum going forward. You don't need so many engineers knowing technology or doing coding. You will need different kinds of skills. So the courses will change. Maybe there will be a shrinkage in terms of amount of engineering degrees that you need out of India. You might need people who know physics. You might need people who know history really well, political science really well. So I do believe that there will be another shift in folks picking up a lot of subject matter knowledge, a lot of subject matter knowledge of a particular industry or a particular subject, rather than just focusing on software engineering. So that switch will happen. And those skills, along with what generative AI and this technology is bringing in, will help us create the future. Right? That's how I think the change will come in.
You work so closely with the finance sector industry,
Yeah.
financial services, insurance as well. I want to ask you, in the near future, which are some of the industries that you see that will be the most impacted with the work of agentic AIs?
So I think, without doubt, retail, that's absolutely one industry I feel that will get touched, you
How, if in short, you can tell us?
see, if you look at retail, the way you engage with retailers, the way you buy stuff, the way you say, for example, right now, the way you build applications. I mean, obviously in India, you use a lot of apps. You've got a lot of 10 minutes apps coming up.
Absolutely.
There is a way you kind of interact with customer service. Those will all get revamped. Maybe some of them are already doing it right now in the
A
back.
lot of them are.
A lot of them are, but I essentially believe that it will be much more easier to build a servicing agent or a servicing workflow than the way it was earlier done, right? I mean, the technology will change, the interaction levels will change. Going to a retail stores, how do you pick stuff? You can do various degrees of automation, help customers kind of have a cart already built when you walk in. Or those kind of so for example, there is already a certain retailers who, by the way, your shopping behavior, when you walk into a store, you'll have your cart already built in, which lane to go, where to find your stuff, it's already there. Now, the way those systems were built earlier were different. Some of them were monolithic applications. Now you can be as dynamic as possible. You can let the AI decide how to kind of, based on your interactions, based on your consumer behavior, you can change a lot of things. So retail, absolutely, I feel that's an area that will have the most impact. I see other industries. Healthcare is the second one. I think healthcare is one sector where you see the true benefit of AI, because you can see providers changing the way you are diagnosing a particular patient. I mean, we did a project with John Hopkins a long time ago where we were able to kind of detect the size and severity of a brain hemorrhage.
Wow.
But the way we kind of built that application was very different, because it was like 8-9 years ago. Now it'll be completely different. But we did see a material impact where you see a provider or a doctor getting assistance, getting help in kind of doing this. For example, surgeries. Now you can have a surgery being done in San Francisco by a doctor in Germany, right? Without even entering the operation room, right? So those are the type of things that you will see. So those are industries I see getting significantly impacted, or getting the benefit. I will not say impacted. They will reap the benefits of this particular tech. Financial services, insurance, heavily regulated. So while there will be a lot of areas of the value chain where there will be benefits, but the true benefit where it comes to those core processes will eventually come as you start getting regulations, getting regulators approving some of this new tech, etc. Because it has to go through that journey. So, but I think healthcare and retail are the two sectors I feel which will benefit the most.
Absolutely. There's one, you mentioned 4 or 5 of the industries. There are 2 industries that I want to talk about a little bit. One I want to agree on, one I have a question on.
Sure.
The healthcare industry I completely agree with. There was the GPA Summit,
Yeah.
Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence 2024,
Yeah.
where India was the host seat actually in the third year itself, where I was hosting that entire event and I was talking to doctors from AIMS. And they were saying how they are using AI and agentic AI to detect breast cancer at the earliest of stages.
Yes.
And they said the earliest the detection happens, the easier the cure.
Absolutely.
The easier the process of the cure.
Absolutely.
So the
glaucoma is another one. One of my friends with whom I went to booth for my B school, he started a firm called Altris AI. He has built an AI application that can detect early signs of glaucoma. Glaucoma after a certain stage can't be cured. So it's a small segment, but it talks about the impact that it's creating, and especially in certain countries where the percentages of population picking that disease is extremely high. I think it's making a lot of difference. So absolutely, I agree.
Is glaucoma a type of cancer?
No, it's like the eye. You get blind.
Oh, I was getting confused with leukemia.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
you get blind.
Yeah.
And even that detection is happening faster
Yes,
through AI.
you can actually use computer vision, start looking at retina, look at certain patterns, and detect. Okay, you may be vulnerable to this particular disease at certain stage of your life. So these are the type of precautions that you should take.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Much needed. Fastest detection, faster recovery process start. Completely agree with this part. The question that I had on the retail part, you mentioned the 10-minute delivery services that we have in India. Exceptional service. I'm just trying to think from a customer point of view. Like I place my order, be it on Instamart or Zepto for whatever, curd, multigrain bread, eggs. My daily order every 2-3 days, and that order reaches me in like 5 minutes time. But it's still a person driving the order to me. It's there already in the cart, and then I am happy with the order. If there is some sort of a problem, I'm putting in a complaint. Initially, the complaint, I can read the lines and I can understand. It's a system, it's a bot, it's an AI. And if it's a major sort of a complaint, then a customer service comes into the chat and takes care of the complaint. In this entire process, I'm trying to gauge how can Agentic AI, it's already so foolproof, how can Agentic AI make it even better?
So I'll start with the complaints part.
Right.
That's where you will see the biggest lift, okay? Because the rest of the piece is already 10 minutes. So you may not visualize the impact an
Right.
agentic workflow can do. Number one, suppose you make a complaint, I did not get this particular item. So what are the steps involved in validating it? You put a complaint in. The person, when the customer service agent, the bot will get the response. It will pass it on. They will validate what was delivered. They will have to then do a refund. It will go to your payment gateway. It will go and find out and make a payment. Now, what an AI, there is a human involvement here in terms of breaking these steps. If you have an agentic workflow here, it will automatically break down these tasks into 4 different sections, execute one after another, reason whether it is right or wrong, and then do the refund, right? Complex tasks where this thing was picked up from the store, but you didn't receive it.
Correct.
That's where the complexity comes. Then what they have to validate, then they will have to make a phone call to the driver who brought in. Did you had it? So those tasks can be automated. So you will see a major lift in the whole servicing part, which is customer complaints and servicing part. Now coming to the actual part where it's delivery, when you put in a delivery request, it goes in. How do you put in a request right now? You go to an app,
Go to the app, place the order.
place the order.
Yeah.
Do you want a natural language interface where you have a button? Suppose you have a
And I
native.
can speak it out.
If you have a native, do you have an Android phone here?
It's an Android.
So if you have a native Android integration, say Perplexity AI, which you must have heard Arvind Srinivas launching that startup that's supposed to be a Google beater in the future. It has got a native integration with Chrome right now. So for any Android phone, you put the mic, you just say, I want to buy A, B, C, this. Find me the best available that service who can get me in 10 minutes. That's all.
Right.
The agent will go, break down the task, go and find which delivery service to pick up, go to the delivery service, place the order, and it just get executed.
So it's a lot more time saving for the customer as well.
And it's a better experience layer. You don't have to type it in,
Right.
right?
Type it and see the price in this app, see the price in that app.
You just call it out. The decision making, the price, the nearest store, which, if you're picking up vegetables, it could even go to the level of validating when did the stock arrive, etc., things like that. So you can do all those activities. So that's the level of automation that you can do with an agentic workflow, right? Which is basically a natural language interface where you are just talking through it.
But say, and I'll give the Indian example because this was something that I was talking to, I was hosting a podcast with the Make My Trip founder, Deep Kalra. And he gave the example that, yes, you can just, speak on the app.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out. One family is coming from Delhi, one family from Mumbai. Get me the tickets. An entire plan is being given down. Another thing during the same chat, he said that when they started off, it was the payment gateway. Because Indians took a lot of time to trust the online payment system.
Correct.
It's a fact. It's a known fact.
It's a known fact, yeah.
Will how far away in the future do you see will Indians be able to trust an agentic AI with the payment system as well? I can give the order, but that order placing, unless it's a cash on delivery, but for that order placing you have to pay. So do you think it's going to be a major task for companies to be able to get Indians to believe in the agentic system in the payment process as well? And if you can give me an example of the US customers now, like how easily accepted were they when it came to the agentic AI using their payment process?
Okay, I'll answer both the questions. First of all, I have a very different theory to this, right? I believe when it comes to payments, the Indian system is much more advanced than any part of the world.
Oh yeah, UPI.
With UPI. So if Indians can adopt to UPI,
Correct.
and you can go to a Kirana store and just scan and let it deduct the money from your bank account, I think the adoption will come.
But we are putting in the code. We are putting in the amount and the code. Of course, in some cases, the amount is coming through the QR code itself.
Yeah.
But the 4-digit PIN, we are putting in ourselves.
No, you're putting the 4-digit PIN.
Yeah.
So when you are doing, say, suppose the best way to, I think, implement it from the example that we spoke about, when you talk, list comes in, it will,
Right.
the human interface will come in. Here is the card, here is the payment. Do you agree? You have to press a button.
So the final payment permission step will still be with the human.
And then if the bank needs a QR, bank needs an OTP or a QR, you cannot replace that because it's
Right.
going from your bank account.
Correct.
So for that step, the human involvement or for your involvement will have to be there. So the agentic workflow design will happen in that fashion, that you pick up your microphone off your phone, you call out all the things that you want to buy. The agent goes behind, picks up the right service, picks up the card, identifies saying that I am ready to go. Do you believe in this card or do you agree? If yes, press the button, we'll direct you to your payment gateway. Say it goes to your ICICI Bank or Axis Bank, you punch in your number and the payment happens.
Right.
So the systems in banks will have to align based on how the banks operate.
Right.
Now, say for example, Apple Pay. If I load my card on Apple Pay, I don't have to punch in the card
The
number, pin and every time. I just have to press the button twice.
Right.
So if that level of, if you are comfortable, you can give that privilege to a particular, to the agent saying that I'm good, I press a button, get it from my Apple Pay or GPay.
Right.
Then it will not ask you to put your OTP. So you can always do those kind of changes. So, but I think these systems will really help. Now, for you as a user, you might feel, hey, I will type it in. Why do I have to go through this? But think about that 80-year-old grandma,
Right.
who might want to just pick and say it instead of punching, doesn't know how to use an app.
Correct.
This will be a game changer. And India, as a population right now, you will have lot of retired. The concept of joint family is kind of changing
Slightly
drastically.
Yes.
You'll have a lot of old family couples living alone with kids living far off, etc.
Correct.
These kind of services will help. I mean, for example, my mom lives alone in Guwahati. I mean, she would love to kind of use the mic and do some of these. My in-laws who lives alone in Ujjain would love to kind of do. In fact, my mother-in-law is a really good user, not tech savvy. She used the microphone. She will come in and say, hey, every day morning she will press the button and say, hey, I want to hear this song. Can you press this? It's not agentic, but she's used to that whole voice-enabled functions of Android.
Right.
And I think she will definitely enjoy ordering stuff using that. Yeah.
BK, will agentic AI adoption define competitive advantage in 2025? Can firms afford to lag, or is there a sustainable pace for integration without losing their own edge as well?
Well, it will be a competitive advantage. I do not know if it will happen in 2025. I mean, at this moment, I'm seeing three distinct personas of customers with whom we are engaging. One, who are early adopters. They are also chasing the shiny object. They want to make a splash. So they're jumping in, irrespective of whether they know whether they will get value or not. They want to try it out. We are seeing a lot of these customers coming in, and we are doing a lot of this work as well. Then there are the other set of customers who are very opportunistic in nature, if I may use the term. They understand the tech, they know the tech, they are picking and choosing use cases which they think will make a difference. I'll see real-time benefits, etc. So we have a smaller set of folks. And our engagement with them is to also educate them, give them use cases, go through that process of saying, okay, you will have a benefit here, let's try this, right? That's the second one. And the third one are very methodical customers. I want a committee, kind of do a discovery, do a review, do a training, and they will probably take time because these are mostly large behemoths who needs a lot of controls and regulations in place. So we're seeing three distinct categories of these customers. I mean, I think all three will benefit. Eventually, in the long run, it's a differentiator. There is no doubt about it, because it will help your experience that you provide to your end customers. So obviously, there's a top line benefit to your P&L statement, but there is a massive benefit to your bottom line as you use these agentic workflows. The cost of building an application is going to go down rapidly. So you see massive amount of reduction in line items when it comes to operational costs.
Totally. BK,
Yeah.
you joined Quantify 6 years back. The Gen AI boom started to happen. If you can tell us one or two of the use cases or an example of work that Quantify did with clients that you are extremely, extremely proud of, work that Quantify's agentic AIs helped clients in solving, major, major problems.
I can give case studies.
Yeah.
May not be able to refer to those customers, because those are, a lot of these are proprietary and controlled.
Some confidentiality as well.
Confidentiality agreements,
Yeah.
etc. So I can talk about a few, and some of them involve my personal engagement. One, I'll give an example of a work that we did in India. And this is obviously for a very large property casualty insurer. They do commercial insurance.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, so we were at the forefront of the implementation of their entire quoting and policy issuance system. Started the work 2 years ago with a pilot, then the implementation started. And this is again a full-blown digital platform backed by AI. One of our platforms is engaged, and with a core insurance system of record at the back end in a headless implementation, currently being used by 1,500 users. Extremely proud of the work that we did here, and for 2-3 reasons. Number one, obviously, it's in India. You feel that you are touching lives of folks who might be living next door, or who've spent time with them. So it kind of helped. You are changing the way agents interact. You get the real sense of AI making a difference in the lives of a lot of personas here. That's number one. Number two, the speed of implementation, right? That's where you will see the massive change. I have been in the business of doing such implementation for last 15, 16 years. In my previous organization, done a lot of guideware implementations, or was part of a lot of guideware implementation. These are massive engagements. It takes 2.5 years, 3 years to kind of roll out the first MVP. This engagement started, I think I had the first meeting December 18, 2023 in Mumbai. And we started our team January first week. We went live somewhere in July, August, the first version, 6-7 months. So that you're talking about that's the difference.
Right.
From 2.5 years to 6-7 months. So extremely proud of that work. That's number one. Number two, recent agentic workflow, because you spoke specifically about agentic workflow. We did work for a large Canadian financial institutions, where we implemented a agentic system which enables their operations people to kind of deal with situations like frauds, right? Or any kind of customer requests or customer issues, etc. It's not end customer facing. You have an operations individual handling the end customer,
Right.
but this application is assisting this operations person to do its job in a very, very nuanced way, where you get the request, then you pass on this information to that agentic to this agent, and the agent does the rest. We finished this engagement this year, and it's going through different iterations, and we're taking it to the next level. But this is one of its kind, for probably first major adoption of an agentic system in a large financial corporation. So very proud of that work.
Lovely to hear that. We're almost towards the end of the
Sure.
podcast. I want to ask you a couple of more questions, and one of them, I want a very candid, honest answer from you.
Yeah.
You grew up in India, studied here, then since the last 20 years, you've been working in the West, you've been working in the States. How did the West look at India at the start of 2000, in 2005, and how does the West look at India now?
Oh, there has been a significant change. There is no doubt about it. I mean, obviously the perception at the start was primarily around being a low-cost center, right? You have the BPO setup starting somewhere in the late 90s. You have offshoring of tech services coming in, first starting with testing, then other development work, etc., coming in. But right now, the work that is being done in India is no longer restricted to certain set of services. Cutting edge work happens in India. One prime example is the rise of global delivery centers in India. We had offshore centers for large banks, large financial institutions in India for a while. But those were primarily created to offset costs, to create a low cost center. But now these are these are pure development centers or an extension of the teams in US. Like for example, JP Morgan Chase, for that matter. You take that example, they have roles like CTOs, etc., out of India,
Right.
which just talks a lot about the trust that the organization has in the talent in India. Now you have truly cross-functional teams in those global delivery centers. You have products been designed here, executed here, being rolled out globally. So there is a massive shift in terms of what work is being done here. That's number one. Number two, the talent base, the way the talent is viewed. Earlier, if you look at the talent pool, there are two distinct categories, if I may use the term, and I might be a little bit controversial here.
Please go ahead.
There is one talent pool who came from the best schools in India, the IITs, and invariably they will go to US and settle there. All the private equities, all the large firms in US will look for, okay, is there an IIT degree in that candidate? If yes, okay, take that guy in and do this. So there is a massive talent shift. And the rest of the talent pool were thought to be doing, mundane tasks, or, not those high performing engineering jobs. But now what has happened, what I have seen, right, when I was growing up, 2000s, going to US was always a dream. Go and not just for the dollar rupee conversion rate, it was also the nature of the work that you will do there.
Right.
But now the talent pool in India has a choice. And I have seen time and again people making a choice that I will not relocate, I'll stay here. So there is also an appreciation of the fact that the Indian talent pool wants to stay in India, right? So that change is also happening. So there is a massive shift in perception and massive shift in terms of recognizing the talent pool that exists in India and the type of work that you can do out of it.
Lovely answer. Lovely to hear that. I want to ask you, the budget came out
Yeah.
just a couple of days back on
Yeah.
1st of February.
I have not caught up with that. Okay, I was flying in, so
I can totally understand.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you about the budget.
Yeah,
What I'm going to
sure.
say is, during the budget, we were actually doing an 8-hour live.
Yeah.
We showcased the budget, and then we were speaking to experts across the country as to what were their takes on the budget. And there was, of course, that initial reaction that came in that, okay, a lot was being expected to be put into and allocated in the AI field, but not that much went into it. 500 crore was announced for one excellence center, but not much. Of course, last year, an entire budget of 10,300 crores was announced for R&D over a period of 5 years. This year's budget, union budget, just saw that 500 crores. So there was an initial conversation that, okay, industry experts are a little disappointed because a lot more was expected to be put into allocated in the AI world. But a lot of experts said this, okay, India is doing great in the startup ecosystem. It's the third best in the world. A lot of money has been pooled into allocated for the startup ecosystem. A lot of money has been pooled into and allocated for medical institutions and IIT growth.
Yeah.
So for a lot of money, headline creating money to be put into the AI world in the country, we first should be on par with that level of the OpenAIs and the DeepSeeks, which they said, quite frankly, the Indian AI industry right now is not. What does India have to do to be able to build something like DeepSeek, its own LLM model, its own open source AI model? What does India need to do to be build something of that level, of the level of OpenAI, of the level of DeepSeek?
Yeah, so the answer would have been very different had DeepSeek not come out with that release, right? Because they're able to do stuff with 1/27th of the cost.
Absolutely.
So things will definitely change. So I think if what DeepSeek has done can be repeated, it's a very different ball game, right? And a lot of newer foundational models will come out. If that's something that needs time, you will have to have a bigger AI infrastructure like the one Donald Trump just announced, Target, with all money getting pumped in, where you need the AI infrastructure to first build foundational models, and then obviously you have to use them, right? So you need that infrastructure. Uh, my take here is this. I think first, instead of being in the race for foundational models, and this is my personal opinion, instead of being in the race for foundational models to build something that's recognized by everybody, we can be smart enough using them that's already existing. We can actually make meaningful changes in the lives of a lot of individuals by focusing on the usage of these foundational models, technologies that help use the foundational model and help change the way we engage in our businesses, engage in our educational institutions, in our hospitals, in our in our road infrastructure, etc. So I think that will probably be much more valuable. uh, can India create its own LLM? Yes, I think a lot of industry experts are going after that. I believe Reliance is trying that as well with Jensen coming in, with Mukesh Ambani and Jensen sitting. So there is definitely work probably that's going in which we are not privy to. But essentially, what my remit here will be that there are enough foundational models out there that will enable us to create a difference to to this billion people in this country. I would rather prioritize that than going after building another foundational model, because I'm sure there are a lot of individuals who are already working on it. The cost of building foundational models will go down. We can be opportunistic about it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
The last question before we let you go: what can we expect from Quantify when it comes to the work of agentic AIs and agentic workflow? What can we expect from Quantify in the near and a little bit of the distant future?
So we are obviously going through a massive revamp of the way we deliver software services, right? That's been our big focus. Obviously, there is a business side to it in terms of building applications for end customers, but the way you deliver software services is going through a massive revamp, and that's where most of our efforts are going in, where we have built a platform called Codera, which enables our developers to be the mythical 10x developer, where you can do a lot of things which will take substantially less amount of time. This platform is getting rolled out, has actually been rolled out in phases through our entire workforce. And we believe that will change the way we work for our clients. And our entire focus in the short term is to make sure each and every developer in our organization can use that platform effectively, can be much more productive than who they are, and then we can deliver more value at a faster pace with less amount of cost, right? So that's the short-term vision. Long-term vision is obviously how do we bring these know-hows, this tech, to the curriculum, to the learning and development modules. We are already doing it for people who have already joined it, but we do have partnerships with a lot of institutions across India. So we want to make sure how we can collaborate with them and enable this learning upfront, because that's the future that we are seeing. And going back to the topic that we discussed about educational institutions, computer science courses, etc., getting revamped. So I think that's another way to think about our long-term vision when it comes to software service delivery. Yeah.
Absolutely. BK, I've spoken to a lot of industry leaders, and you've spoken a lot about agentic AI and
Sure.
other path-breaking AI tools and innovations that are coming out. The way you were able to explain a lot of the work that agentic AI can do, which can quite literally help in the ground level
Sure.
on an each consumer basis, I think people who are not aware and not privy of the jargons, they also will be able to understand. Thank you so much for
Pleasure is all mine.
time, for talking to us. How was the chat for you?
Oh, it was great. Thank you. Awesome.
Lovely to have you here. Do tell us in the comments, how was this episode of Simulated Reality for you? I am dead sure, just like me, there were a lot of interesting insights, and some, as I said, which will reach out to the people who are just getting interested in the AI field as well. Tell us in the comments how did you find this episode, and of course, subscribe to AIM Media House for more such content just like this. This is me, your friend Korak. I will see you in the next one.